Celeste Longacre. I'm the author of Celeste Garden Delights, and I have been growing most of my family's vegetables for the past 40 years. So in this time where we kind of have to all stay home, it might be a really good idea to take part of that lawn that you have and turn it into a vegetable garden. So I'm going to show you kind of how I do my garden to help you get some hints about how you might want to do your garden. If you do have a lawn, you might want to take a big piece of black plastic and or something, a tarp or something to cover part of the lawn where you're going to want to make a garden, and leave it there for 3 or 4 weeks so it can kind of kill the sod and it will be easier to loosen up. But I'm not going to do that because I don't have to do that. I already have beds, and these beds I've had for years. My husband made them for me. We started with forest here, so it wasn't always like this, but it is at the point now where we don't have to turn it over or do anything harsh. So in the spring, clean it up, get all the leaves out of there. And then this is where I'm going to plant the peas. The peas are one of the first things that I plant every year because they don't mind the cold. They actually prefer the cold. So I got the bed ready as far as cleaning it up, and I'm going to add some soil amendments. This is azomite powder. It's A to Z of minerals, including trace elements. If you have a quarry near you, you can get quarry dust, and usually they will give it to you, which is, this is really probably quarry dust that somebody decided to market, so it's a little bit on the expensive side. But quarry dust, quarries will give to you, which actually has lots and lots of minerals, and it helps to remineralize the soil. One of the problems in this country is our soil has gotten very demineralized because for a long time we didn't put the minerals back in. So if you take a carrot, a carrot is not, the carrots are not all equal. Okay, this is kelp meal, which is seaweed. So that gives the plants some nice stuff too. Put that on here. And I put everything on top. I don't rototill. You might have to rototill the first time if you have sod. But you want to work towards understanding that you want to mimic nature as much as possible. And if you go out into the woods, you notice that the leaves come down and they stay on the top of the soil. They don't get rototilled in. So the best thing to do is to mimic nature as much as we can. Okay, so that's the kelp meal. And then I also have alfalfa meal. This is pellets. You can get it in a powder, which I actually prefer, but I couldn't find any last year when I bought my alfalfa meal. You want to make sure that it's organic, because alfalfa is one of those crops that they are GMOing, genetically modified organisms, and as far as I'm concerned, you don't want to put that in your soil. So these are all my soil amendments that I'm going to be adding today. And then we are going to take the broad fork, and you can use a pitchfork if you don't have a broad fork, just to loosen up the soil. Eventually you want to get to a point where you don't even have to do that. The soil is pretty much loosened already. I guess I'm not quite there yet. Okay. So this is my broad fork. Kind of like a big pitchfork, and you want to just put it in and loosen up the soil. This is actually pretty loose already, which is a good sign. Okay, so I have taken the broad fork and I have loosened up the soil all in this part of this bed. You can see we have the holes here from the broad fork. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to rake it all flat. Get it all to be nice, even keel here. And it doesn't have to be perfect, it's not like when you build things and you have to have it absolutely level. Gardens are very forgiving about things like that. So now we're ready to actually plant. And what I did last night was I soaked the peas because it's good to soak them overnight if you're going to plant them. Sometimes I don't because once you soak them, you're kind of committed. And, you hope it doesn't rain the next day. All right, so we have here all the soaked peas. So I'm going to dump out the water. And I know it looks as though I have a lot of peas here, because I do. James Crockett, in his book, Crockett's Victory Garden, he said if you're stingy with your peas are going to be stingy with you. So I always put lots and lots of peas in. Way more than you would think you would need. I don't know if animals take them or whatever, but I never even thin them. They come up and they just do really well. So I always get, when I buy peas, I always buy a really big bag of peas. I don't just buy a regular little tiny bag of peas. So I'm going to put these peas everywhere here. So you have peas pretty much everywhere you're looking here. All right, that's good for that. And then I'm going to just dust them with a little bit of this mycorrhizal inoculant. This is kind of a fungi that has a kind of a symbiotic relationship with plants. So you want to just make sure that there's some of this stuff around. Basically, the fungi helps the plants, and the plants help the fungi. They kind of feed each other. And I will put an address with a phone number up so you can see where you can order this. I mail order this. And you want it to be right with the plant, because it has to be right with the roots of the plant. That's why I put it right with the seeds when I plant them. Try to get them almost everywhere. Oh, looks pretty good. All right, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover the seeds with either some old compost or some old rotted manure. This particular stuff that I have is at the bottom of my chicken run. My chicken run is on a hill. So they get a lot of weeds from the garden that they eat. And whatever they don't eat decomposes along with some of the leaves and some of the chicken poop. And then it goes downhill. And it goes out the back part of their fence. And it turns into this really beautiful, rich, nice looking dark stuff. We're going to cover up all the peas. Okay, so peas like something to climb on, and they definitely want something to climb on that's not going to woo in the wind. They don't like that. That makes them seasick or something. So what I like to do, these are some old tomato cages. I like to give them something really good to climb on. Boy, that one's long, huh? Let's see if I can get that one in. We shall see how far this guy goes in. Nope, I'm not going to use that. I have a lot of these cages because I used to put my tomatoes in them, and then I got something better for my tomatoes. Figured out that one was coming apart. Usually when I stack them, I push the things to the inside so that they will fit inside of each other. So when I take them out, I have to open them up. Okay. Move these guys up a little bit. And what we're going to do is we're going to put them all over this here, and we're going to take some string and we're going to tie them together. That makes them very, very sturdy so that they don't blow in the wind. I go through a lot of string in my garden in the summer. And basically, mostly what gardening is it's kind of time-consuming puttering. Because you're doing this and you're doing that, and you're doing this and you're doing that, and everything takes a little bit of time. And I'm going to tie them down here too, just to make them more secure. And what we're going to do is we're going to have them all across the whole bed. Okay, so you can see we now have our whole bed. It's got all these nice tomato cages, and they're all tied together in a whole bunch of places so that the plants will be happy. The peas themselves put out little tendrils, so they will climb themselves, and eventually they're going to get about this tall. So we are going to have to come out and put something else out here, but this will do until they start to get taller than the tomato cages themselves. So this is a good place to start. If I had my hose hooked up, I would water these guys next. But that's sort of next on the list for my husband, and it is going to rain this afternoon, so I feel like they will be fine with the rain that's coming. So that's it for today. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.